Podcast Network Asia.
So you ask yourself every time when you're confused about something, does it save lives? Yes or no? If it does, keep going. If it doesn't, stop.
Hey folks, this is Kako Tirona.
And this is Gino Rufino.
You are listening to Torque of the Town. It's Wednesday. Welcome to another episode of Torque of the Town. Today, Gino and I are joined by a guest who is, well, there are many ways to describe him. I like to say that he is one of the largest advocates for road safety, which is perfect because of the topic that we're going to be discussing today, which is the child seat law. Now, to introduce him, he does have his own show called Tito O'Clock. He has been compared to be as the local George Clooney and has been voted not once but twice as TILF of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Mr. James Deakin.
Without an S, thank you very much for not making me a plural today. Hi guys, welcome.
No, this is our show.
Your
bro.
show, sorry. It's habit.
You do have a show though, right? You have Tito
the
O'Clock.
same machine, so I'm sitting next to the exact same machine I use.
So it feels like home, really.
It does feel like home, except for you. You're that glaring reminder that I'm not home. Yeah.
Just to bring it back a little bit,
Can you feel the
James
love?
and I have known each other for quite some time. Probably Gino's known James a little bit longer, if I'm not mistaken. I've known James since maybe about 2009,
I like
2010.
Gino more than you, though.
Oh, yeah.
Wow,
Everybody
dude.
does, though.
You say that off air,
Everybody does.
not on air. There are certain things that you save.
And James and I have battled on the racetrack. So
Yeah.
Battled on the
to think
racetrack.
that he likes me more than you, it says a lot.
Exactly.
And I only used to see him only four hours a day, and I guess that speaks a lot. So
But yes, we do go back a super duper long way. Back in the days of when was C Magazine.
C Magazine. Prior to that, even about
even before that, radio.
Radio. We were
Yeah,
on K-Light,
K-Light.
for
You
quite
guys were
some
in
time.
radio together?
We did a show together,
Called
Counterflow.
Counterflow. That's right.
Yeah, actually, yeah, man, wow, blast from the past. That's like an 05 or 07.
Oh,
05.
5, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Anyway,
It's been a while.
I don't know if anyone wants to go down memory lane with us.
No, probably not. People are thinking, so what?
Worried
Get
about
on with
listeners
it.
going, how's this relevant to my life?
Absolutely not.
I'm just wondering,
We're just wasting a
I tuned
little
in for
bit
the
of time.
child seat safety law.
The thing is, though, we could waste time on this program. We could talk about memories and God knows what for an entire hour because having James on board as a guest is actually going to be a lot of fun. But we got to get into it. We got to get to it immediately. James is here for one very good reason, which is we're going to talk about the child seat law, something that, in fact, Gino and James have bantered about on social media on James's Instagram page. And let's get down to it, basically, James. And we asked you here because you yourself have spoken to the author of this law, JV himself. And well, we wanted to get down to the nitty gritty of it. The first thing that people are going to complain about, which is it's a child seat law. It says that anyone that is 14 years old,
12.
12 years old
Or
and
the height of
below,
Paco.
or my height. Well, I'll get to that. I'm warming up to it, dude. Diesel engine, okay? Diesel engine. So basically 12 years and below, or is it 411? 411. Now, I, being a sticker of the law, made sure that I was below that height when I was 12 years old. I made sure in preparation for today, these laws today. So I made sure that I was below the height. But today we have kids. In fact, your children are way past that height at a much younger age.
Yeah.
Let's address that first. Let's address the fact that there are children out there that could be 9, 10 years old and they're 5 feet, 5 inches, maybe even 5'7", and they weigh $150 already.
Okay.
How do you explain to your average Joe that, or to the people that want to enforce it, that this particular child need not be inside on a child seat?
The great way to start, because I think before anything, we got to look at the spirit of the law and the objective of the law. And
Okay.
this is what's often missed. Everyone gets down into the details and how do we catch them and all that. It's not about that. That's not what the law was intended for. It's intended to save lives, not to make money, not for revenue raising, not for papogi points. It's strictly to save lives. So if you all come from that angle and that same page, then it's easier to understand these things like, okay, what about a 12-year-old that's 5'5" or 5'6"? Like you mentioned, my kids, they tower over me now. And I think this is the case for everybody. Better nutrition, cleaner water, whatever it is that is making us grow bigger than every generation by leaps and bounds now. That's why it's important to understand the spirit. if the kid is over 4'11", he or she no longer needs to sit in a booster seat because they are already well within the design of the 3-point seat belt, which is, for me, the greatest invention of safety in the automobile, pound for pound. Next to the brake pedal, of course. I think that
Well,
one.
who needs a brake pedal?
Well, given a choice, I pick that first. After that, seatbelt. So coming from there, you can already see common sense will dictate that it's really 4'11" is they just need some kind of figure that they can actually refer to. And then after that, all right, he or she is safer in the 3-point seatbelt. So that's where I would start with. I think it was called out properly. I think when they came out with this, the LTO director made this very loose comment, very irresponsible comment. He said it in jest, but the internet doesn't understand jest. There's no font for sarcasm. You got
really?
Especially when you're doing public service stuff.
Yeah.
I've learned the hard way. just stick to the facts, ma'am. Don't put any color to it because somebody's going to misinterpret it. You're trying to do one rule for all, and that rule is just basically put your children in the proper harnesses to be able to travel safely.
Now, proper harnesses, I understand. It would be the same way as, let's say, for example, a proper helmet. None of these hard hats or going on a motorcycle with a hard hat, a proper helmet to protect the rider. In the same way, the proper harness and also for children in the back seat. Here's the thing, though. What would dictate a proper child seat? I mean, if Mang Tomas, which is at the corner of Tomas something and whatnot, what if he decides to create a child seat that says, pwede na to. I used my tantiometer to make it correct.
Well, there are global safety standards, of course. So they're controlled by a safety council. You will see different ratings for car seats. So make sure that they are part of the ISOFIX or the ICC they have different ratings for different countries, right? We are already establishing through DTI a standardized what is acceptable or not. So once they put that safety rating on, I'm not exactly sure what the Philippine one is, but we will have a standard. It has to meet that standard. If Mang Tomas wants to make one, that's totally cool. For baby Tomas, no problem at all. Just make sure that it fits within this safety standard, which will be dictated by international safety standards because we don't have a manufacturing process here yet or at least ISO certified process for that. Yeah.
Look, I want to go back to the misinterpretation of this thing because that's when we really saw the reaction on social media, right? When the 4'11" thing, the 12-year-old thing, more than anything, the 12-year-old limit or the 12-year-old rule, I should say. And then they had to clarify into 4'11". But we've seen this time and time again with the LTO, with the DOTR. I mean, it's kind of like there's a misinterpretation of the law, even though it's good. Right? It's meant for good, whether it's this or whatever laws have come up before that have been misinterpreted, and all of a sudden the way it's implemented is wrong, and then people go crazy about it.
Yeah.
As a motoring figure in the Philippines, James, how do you think it's part of your duty to help explain what exactly this law is supposed to be?
I do. Thanks for bringing that up because we have a tendency to just jump on things, right?
Sure.
I'm not saying Philippines. This is human nature, right? And what tends to happen is you tend to throw out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak. There is something good there, but because it was wrongly applied, it was poorly rolled out, we jump on the whole thing and hate on it. When hey, relax. This is a good law. We need it. The timing stinks. I get it. But let's not paint it all with the same brush. And that's what we tend to do. That's why I'm glad that you asked the question, because we have to kind of make this himay a little bit and say, all right, just because it was poorly rolled out, just because somebody was very insensitive about the way they made comments about, just buy a bigger car if he's taller than 4'11", it doesn't mean to say that we should hate on the law itself. The law itself is good. It will save lives. Where they screwed it up was rollout, implementation, communication.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, can we isolate and address that? That's why I feel a self-imposed responsibility to do this. I'm not paid by anybody. I don't have a platform, so to speak, or an official platform. I just have seen with my own very eyes the impact of road safety. My brother had this Lifeline ambulance for 25 years. You see firsthand the effect of road safety. And if you ever went along on an ambulance ride, like I've done, I've driven an ambulance, I've ridden along with them. When you see the effect that it has, you you will dedicate part of your life to making sure that message gets out, because you realize once it's too late, when it's not necessary, when you have to go and see what happens when you go to the hospital and the family arrive. And I've seen that my hair is standing now when I say it, because you would do anything to be able to take 1 or 2 seconds back of your life to just change things. That's where I'm coming from. It's like, now is the 1 or 2 seconds.
Yeah.
If I could just get this point across to even just 1 or 2 people, because I know that it doesn't mean anything until you're in that situation. But there are some people, even if 1 or 2 just go, you know what? Yeah, he's right. Let's just invest in a proper car seat, proper helmet, proper this, proper wear our seat belts. You save 1 or 2 lives, it was all worth it. I'll be God. Can we go back to the intro? That was funnier. But there's nothing, here's the thing about road safety. I chose one of the most unsexy advocacies you could have, right? It's hard to dress this up. It's boring. It's ampalaya. It's really just, you got to put a lot of seasoning on it.
Understood.
But that's I don't mind. If that's what I'll do, a TikTok over it, I'll sell my soul for it, because it's still it's something we have got to really improve in this country. We look at COVID, we see the numbers of COVID. That's nowhere near the numbers of road safety accidents that we have out there. All the attention's on COVID, but yet you still see people on the road glaringly doing something far more, exposing themselves far more than COVID, wearing their helmets on their elbows, having babies sitting on their yaya's lap while they're on the NLX doing 110.
Yeah.
And what the hell? I mean, if you ever saw, or just do this, if you could just do an experiment and hold a bowling ball, grab a bowling ball, whether they 9 pounds, 11 pound bowling ball, just hold that bowling ball and then just have the driver slam on the brakes. And just try. That's slamming on the brakes. That's not hitting an object. Once you hit an object, you see the weight of that thing, the G-forces exerted. No matter how strong you are, that baby goes through the windshield. And that's why you have got to make sure that everybody in the car is restrained. Another misconception about seatbelts and child safety as well. A lot of people think, hey, buhay ko yan. I mean, if I'm not concerned about it, neither should you be, because it's my life. I know of people like this. They're even friends of ours, Gino. I won't call them out, of course, but
I know who they are.
Yeah, who's like, I'm not going to wear a seatbelt.
I don't know who they are. Call them out.
No.
I want to know who.
I think they know who they are, and it won't change the messaging.
Is it a guy or a girl? Tall, short? Oh, okay.
Loves to speed, loves to go on these, high-speed runs, etc. And famously says, I don't wear a seatbelt because if I have an accident, I'd rather go quickly rather than be disfigured. I know. Children, if you're listening to this, I'm not endorsing this. I'm using this as an example. And the example is, when you are in a car unbelted, you become a very big danger to everybody else in the car, because you start getting thrown around.
You're basically a projectile.
Yes. And if you see an accident in the car, you are banging into every single person in that car.
Yep.
Those guys wore their seatbelt, you didn't. It's not about you. It's like the mask.
Yeah.
You're protecting you're protecting others from you.
Correct.
That's the same thing. Think of a seatbelt like the mask. Wow, I just made that up. Can I coin that? Can you
Go ahead.
Can we tag that?
DM
1403. Okay, yeah.
DM. There are other people out there.
It's good, yeah.
There are other people out there.
Self-Appreciation Society of the Philippines.
There are people out there that I don't immediately know if they have major concerns about the child seat law. The one thing that they're saying is that, we understand that you're doing this so that it protects the children on the inside the automobile. But how can you come up with a law that you must purchase car seats, boosters, and whatnot to protect the children inside the automobile if, in fact, the government can't even make sure that the simple roads are actually safe to drive on? They will argue, I'm not saying there are a lot of them, but there are people that will argue that the only reason why you can become a projectile inside the road is if you're driving on EDSA at 40 kilometers per hour and then you hit a pothole. How can you expect people to govern themselves inside an automobile by putting in a child seat if the government itself cannot produce proper roads?
Fair point. I don't like to get caught up in those types of arguments, because it's always, but yeah, yung bus muna, tignan mo siya, it never ends eh. And then the bus will point to the jeep, siya, tignan mo, nagtatambay dun. And then before you know, you're like, it's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So I agree. And it makes perfect sense what you're saying. But yeah, we got to kick it off somewhere. So it's like, okay, let's fix this. And then once this is implemented, good point. Let's get to the roads, because no point having that. You're only as strong as your weakest link, right?
Yeah, correct.
So let's buckle up, but then let's fix the potholes too, so we don't know. Now look, we've got fixed potholes and a child seat safety law. And now we're all happy. Yeah, the government does have a big role to play here, but I think if we get this into a mindset, we will achieve great things. It's not about the law per se, it's about the mindset. That's why when we started, it was about the objective and the spirit of the law. If we all understand what we're doing, not just with the child seat safety law, but with road safety in general, we will get it. We will get it. I mean, like, you see motorcycle helmets here. I'm just staring at Gino's helmet. It keeps bringing me back to that point. You see the difference now with how many of the motorcyclists in a certain class of motorcycle, they're wearing it for compliance only. Diba?
Yes, true.
And you can tell these guys off a million miles, a mile away.
Correct.
Because they either are not strapping it on.
They're protecting their hair.
They're protecting their wallet.
Their wallet.
They're
They don't wanna
protecting
get
their
fined.
wallet. That's all they're protecting,
Yeah.
and their license. So they obviously don't understand the communication and the messaging is not getting through. That this is for your safety. It's for your mahuhuli ka. That's not a good reason. It's not like the ADDA. The anti-distracted driving. It's not about getting caught. It's about not being distracted.
Not being an idiot on the road.
Yes, and this is why I get so upset when I see these laws passed out hurriedly, and then everybody jumping on it, trying to either claim credit, get a little bit of limelight. They're not authorized to speak. Like, it muddles it up and it ruins it for everybody. You should, when you have something like this, information campaigns, we're in media. We know what it takes to get an information campaign out.
Yeah.
And that's just for our tiny little brands. When you have a national law, you need to invest heavily in a communication strategy so that people understand what you're doing. You're not going to get support if they don't understand. And this is where we always fall short. I really don't understand why they don't talk to people like us, because we talk about them right after the law comes in.
that's
they
true.
know this.
Yeah.
It's like clockwork. So why not just adjust your clock a little bit, talk to us before, and then you've got a friend later on when it comes to communicating your idea.
Yeah.
But when you roll out like, it's almost like, I don't want to talk to the media because I don't want them to claim it as their idea. I want this to all be my idea.
I guess your point is it doesn't matter who claims it as their idea,
doesn't.
so long as it does its job properly.
Again, back to objective and spirit. It's not about an individual person or a platform or a money-making thing or running for Senate or Congress. No, it's about saving lives. So if we understand that, everything else flows. All the energy that we put into this goes in the correct direction, which is to save lives. It's as simple as that. So you ask yourself every time when you're confused about something, does it save lives? Yes or no? If it does, keep going. If it doesn't, stop. That's why we need to always start with why. All companies start with why. We have our mission and vision statements. This is what gets us up in the morning. This is what we remember. So we always start with why, right? Why am I doing this again? Oh, yeah, that's right. So the same with the law. But when your why is screwed up, everything else goes follows. And this is where it always gets messed up.
We're going to get back to the why once again. We're going to take a quick break. Be right back with Mr. James Deakin.
Before we continue with this episode, I want to remind everybody out there that we are in the new normal. And in this new normal, it might be a little bit difficult to take public transportation. So, what is the best way to get around from point A to point B, to go to work, to go visit your loved ones, socially distanced? Well, that is taking a motorbike. And if you want to learn more about bikes, if you want to learn more about what best bike suits your lifestyle, well, you can check out AutoDeal.com.ph. We got every single brand there, all the different types of models, whatever suits your budget and your lifestyle. Check out AutoDeal.com.ph.
Cars are better.
Nope, bikes are.
So we're back with James Deakin, road safety advocate, guapo
so
extraordinaire. You like those intros?
It wasn't so hard.
It wasn't so hard. No. So we were talking about the whys of road safety, starting off with the child seat law, and brings me to this one. I don't know. It's kind of an off question. The recently conducted motor vehicle inspection centers, would they check on, let's say, for example, if you have a car seat if you're carrying children inside your car? Would that be part of their program?
They're not. That's a really good question, actually. I haven't been through all their points that they check on.
70 points.
70 points. You would imagine that would be there, but then not everyone has a child
You
or
can't police it.
child seat. Also, I think it should be something that should be fitted by the either manufacturer. I don't think it should be an LTO thing. I think the people who sell the seats should be qualified to put them in properly. And I really think that there should be some kind of a certification or some kind of process to just make sure that they're installed properly. Because again, no point having a great child seat if it's not also buckled in properly.
True.
And a lot of people don't do that. They cut corners with that. I've seen it where they'll put the child seat there and the child seat itself is not actually, it's just a booster of some sort.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's 2 projectiles now. You got.
I don't want to go off topic too much, but yeah, with the MVIS or C, depends on what it is. Now that it's not operational, you telling me that the LTO should be the one to check on these things?
No. I don't believe the LTO should be the one to check on these. Only because, again, it's about. In theory, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't the Land Transportation Office be the arbiter here or the regulator? But I think it just comes down to core competence. If you already have people who do this properly as their business, stick with that na lang. I mean, if you go to a reputable car seat brand that has all the certifications, it's also in their best interest to make sure you're using it properly. So maybe while we're suspended with this child seat safety law, we also make sure that we have accredited centers that do not charge for this, by the way. You shouldn't charge for it. If you buy the seat, it should come free with being installed properly. That should not be optional. And then just make sure that, we have a certain standard so that the people who are installing the car seats understand. And I think when you put the incentives that way, I think it's more natural and organic because the private sector who sell the seat have more incentive to make sure that each one is fitted properly because it's their brand that's at stake. I mean, God forbid something happens and you're in a XYZ brand of car seat and it failed. Yeah, that's the last thing you want.
See,
right?
that's I think might be the scary part also because if let's say for example a private seller distributor of child seats were to let's say for example be given the go ahead to say that the government would say okay buy it from this particular person, they know it, they might get suspended in the same way that the MVIS and the MVICs got suspended recently too, right?
Well, not if they're charging. If they're not charging, there's no reason to. The reason the MVIS was suspended, well, again, like the child safety law, was timing and of course communication and then the costing. It wasn't transparent enough. They didn't communicate this well. So people are naturally hesitant because we've been burned so many times. You cannot blame the Filipino motorists. They have been burned so many times, extra crispy, double fried. Bugnet style, baby. We really, hindi na kaya. I mean, we're at the end of our rope already.
Yeah.
So this is why let's reset. Let's understand what we're trying to do, and then let's create a strategy for it. In the same way that when I decided that this was going to be my advocacy and I was going to dedicate a large portion of my voice to this, I had to understand, okay, what am I really trying to achieve here? And what's the path of least resistance? Be honest with your audience. I mean, don't pretend it's a sexy topic. Understand that it's not. Then you can season it. You can do what you want to still get that same message across using humor, using cringe, using whatever tools that you may have on social media, just to get that same message across.
The MVIC, the child seat safety law, the anti-distracting law, all these things. As I mentioned a while ago, they're all great laws.
Yeah.
In theory. They've all been suspended.
Yeah.
So, and because of the communication, because of the way it's implemented, because of the miscommunication with, I guess, the people who implemented, the people who are making hule, the timing of the whole thing. So, what if there is another law that is passed that, in theory, is a good law, but because we've seen it already before, these things can be suspended, despite how good it is, but because of the implementation, because of the timing, because of the other factors. It's not received well, and it will be suspended. So what are the chances of that happening again with another law that will be passed in the future?
At the moment, extremely high. And I think we share the same concern and worry is credibility with the agency. Because after you get undermined 3-4 times in a row that we know of just in recent times, motorcycle barriers, ADDA, this child seat safety law, MVIAC. So what does that do to the credibility of the agency? You almost become like, yeah, it's very difficult now to come out with something. And this is why I'm very noisy about let's separate it, because we really do need these laws. And when the power transfer happens, when I agree with giving the power to the people should have a voice. And this is what I try to do, articulate concerns. But there's a tipping point there. Mob rule, right? When you tip over a certain point, when they think, wow, we can bully these agencies. I don't want that either. That's the other extreme. When the pendulum swings that far, you've got bigger problems too, because every law is going to be a problem for somebody, right?
Yep.
And I even was interviewed by a mainstream channel, and I had to correct a couple of times the host, because it was going down that avenue of, but isn't it about the cost? I mean, it's too expensive. It's too expensive. So wait. This shouldn't be the talking point. If you're buying a car, you should be able to buy a car seat, because we have to, it's up to the government to create a minimum barrier of entry of safety.
True.
If you start making that optional, you're in for a very, very slippery slope. In the same way that when we have pilots and stuff, we dictate the safety standard of X amount of years of schooling, whatever. I look at it as could be a weapon of mass destruction in the wrong hands. You can
True.
kill 10 people, 12 people, 15, 20, 30. Easily. So we need to dictate the safety standards. It shouldn't be optional. And that's why we need to find the balance between being fair, giving the public their say, but having the agencies be firm. And this is why they should get really internally now. If anyone who's listening within the government, regroup and you create a spokesperson, just one spokesperson that speaks for all of these types of things, and make sure that person is really well briefed, can answer questions, understands what they're doing. Do not just let any media interview anybody, because that's what we do. I mean, we also are part to blame, not necessarily those in this room, but as a group, we tend to be like, because of the way we've structured news and the way we packaged it, everyone wants to be first. So there's an issue, I guarantee you, it's like when child seat safety law announced today, I get 300 phone calls.
Yeah.
You know, hey, can we interview? And look, I'm all for it. I love being interviewed about these things. But the thing is, I can tell when it's just like, look, I gotta make a deadline. I have this is the hot topic. I don't really care what's going on. I just need to file my report. What I'm getting at here is they'll take anybody sometimes just to have a face and a talking head.
Any Tom, Dick, and Harry.
We are no shortage of people who are KSP out there. I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody. This is not designed to any one person. I'm just saying, as a pattern, we tend to media come out. We need to get this issue out. There's so many medias calling the same person that eventually that same person can't do everything, so they just call everybody else, and everyone wants to speak on TV, and the message just gets more and more muddled.
Yeah.
The messaging gets actually completely perverted, and before you know it, you're back to square one. So please, whether it's MVIC, whether it's child seat, whether it's ADDA, let's just regroup and create a one communication source and point, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that person's got to be really, really know their stuff.
Would you be willing to be that person?
I'd actually be willing to be that person, to be honest. Communication-wise, because I don't want any government position at all. Zero. I really do not want that, because I feel that I can do more from outside.
Sure.
But I would be happily, if that's what it took to get the message out. But please, I'm not going to come in and communicate bad ideas, all right?
Yeah.
So I'd have to come in and say, before we roll this out publicly, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve? And we'll do what we were talking about kanina. Objective, spirit of the law. All right. Then you assign, okay, if it's me speaking, I'll speak. I'll understand everything, so that when you're being asked, you understand where you're coming from, rather than just memorizing answers and I'll get back to you. And
things getting muddled. It's like the people who talk about it in the past it's almost like they don't understand it fully. And they regurgitate whatever they see or whatever they read, whatever they're told, without fully understanding what is going on and why these things exist and why these things are being passed. And that's where I think the problem really is. And I think there really could be a good use of somebody who like James, would be able to understand it and able to disseminate to everybody else what this law is supposed to be doing.
The truth is, it can also be some people out there that they muddle it simply because they're trying to buy time as well.
Yeah, but the fact that you're speaking in jest of something that's being put out there just is new to people.
Yeah.
It's irresponsible.
True.
It's very irresponsible.
It's I guess as irresponsible as spreading fake news and whatnot.
It is.
Yeah.
It
Right?
is. And also, why reason brought us up as media as a group is that we have a big role here because sometimes, when the story gets traction, just make sakay na lang.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you're doing more damage than good. And you know it. I mean, like, it's so easy to pile on the hate and jump on an issue, like motorcycle barriers, etc. There was not one sane person that I knew of that agreed with putting that motorcycle barrier. But when you get into that frenzy, yun na nga, it does more damage than good because we'll rarely just stick to that one issue. And that's where we tend to we attack the whole agency, we attack the whole laws, and then we disrespect road safety in general because you say, oh, it's being handled by a bunch of people who don't know what they're talking about and stuff like that. And then we take several steps back. You know how hard it is to gain 1 point in this type of topic?
Yeah.
It's
forever.
you bleed for every single step you take. You
Yeah.
bleed. And then so for it to go back, oh man, it really hurts. It really hurts.
Do you think if we were not in a pandemic and the timing would not be as bad as it is for the reason why this has, some of the things have been suspended, do you think these laws would still be in effect?
I think we'd have a far better chance but I don't think the pandemic's the only thing, but it's a far better chance. I would even probably say 50% of it is the timing and the pandemic. Yeah. And I agree with that because on one hand, you're telling kids you can't go to school, you can't go to the malls, stay at home. So why are we introducing a child safety law for mobility now? Very conflicting messages. Mm-hmm. So can we put that to a side and then let's, it's such a tricky topic. It's really tricky. So we have to be there's going to be resistance all the time.
Yeah.
Anytime you're asking people to part with their money, it's when it's an unsexy thing. Like, it's no trouble on, Shopee 13 or whatever. Any of those things, people part with the money. Shop and take my money, right?
Add to cart.
Yeah, add to cart. It's an impulsive thing. But when you're asking them to buy things that are what we call grudge purchases, right?
Yeah.
And child seats are grudge purchases, even though we love our children. It doesn't. It's the kind of thing that, like batteries, oil, tires, people don't. So we have to really make sure they understand what we're doing and that this is for everybody's safety. And if you think that it's expensive, it is, yeah, of course. But they started about $3,000. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but as long as it's one that's certified, that's fine. But if you think that's expensive, well, so were brakes. I mean, when they first came out, brakes are expensive. Mm-hmm. Everything else in your car is expensive, but you need it and you got used to it.
Yeah.
This is something else you got used to.
The most expensive would probably be a trip to the hospital.
Then there's a trip to the hospital.
Then the morgue.
Then let's talk about the price of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Morgue.
But how about the families? Because in the Philippines, it's very common to have families with like 5 kids, 4 kids.
17.
And what do you do when a lot of them are under 4'11" or under 12 years old?
Are you talking about my family? Is that what's happening here?
So do you
It's
have
personal? Let's not get
do you
personal.
have
Dude, I'm sitting right
Do you have
here.
like 4 car seats in your car? I mean, how? That's
Technically, yes.
right. That's going to be an issue as well.
Technically, though, yes. And I know this could come across as insensitive, but if you brought children in, to this world, right?
You have a responsibility to
You have a
them.
responsibility. It's like, well, I have 4 kids. Do they all have to eat?
No, just pick the one that you really like,
no,
and
of
the other
course,
one can go to college. That's it.
It I hate to say because I understand what you're saying is a very valid point.
Yeah.
There's people with there are more pressing needs that, but then again, it is the price of safe mobility. And if we make one exception, we make all exceptions. And that's another thing that I have a problem with, and I think we all had a problem with, including Senator JV, who was the author. When I asked, former Senator Pala, when I asked him about it, one of the things he took great issue with is, and I took great issue with, why are we introducing this first for the private and then the public, which is a vast majority of people traveling on the public transportation, it take a year before they will come up with a recommendation for that. So maybe they can use this time to come up with recommendations now. It is a very tricky problem because you can't just pattern it strictly after the U.S. or any other first world country, which is normally how we like to pattern laws. And there's nothing really wrong with it. Yeah. It's not plagiarism. In fact, other countries encourage it. Yeah, yeah, it's best practice, right? Mm-hmm. But when you copy directly, yes, we are in a completely different demographic. We have to make some adjustments, but those adjustments, I would think that in Australia, they would have, like, even back when I was there 20 years ago, you would call up a taxi and you wouldn't specifically ask for one with a car seat.
Yeah.
So taxi companies, fleet companies would be mandated by law back then to have a minimum amount of percentage of their fleet would have child safety or child seats. Yeah. Precisely for that reason. So maybe this is the compromise for some that, we can get. In order to have a franchise of a TNVS or something like that, or a taxi, you must have, let's say, I don't know the figure, 15% of your fleet. I'm just throwing out random numbers.
Yeah, I get you.
Of your fleet has to have child seats in it, so that when somebody calls, they can say child safety. And I would even go as far as PWDs. Yeah. And if we want to go slightly off topic, this is what broke my heart with the Uber drama before, is because before Uber got kicked out of or left, I was talking to Uber about this idea of, as part of this accreditation, if we could kill two birds with one stone, if the government allowed them to operate, they were willing to dedicate 20% of their fleet to PWDs. Meaning they would charge exactly the same, no extra cost. And that would solve, imagine the PWD mobility issues. Yeah. We could have solved. But then, of course, we all know what happened with Uber. So we could still mandate these things, give incentives, trade-offs things. So you have Grab and any other TNVS and say, all right, we are incorporating a child seat safety law. We want you to become partners in this. Let's get 20% of your fleet converted, or make sure 20% of your drivers have this, and this is what we will do in return. You can work it out. There's plenty of give and take there that you can make a deal with government and to be able to create a better and safer environment for everybody. Grab would be willing to do it because Uber was willing to do it with PWD, and it wasn't necessarily from the goodness of their heart because we're wonderful. No, it was they saw the value in it.
Correct.
And they saw also how they could offset it with certain things, and that's how you get things done.
All right, we're going to be taking a quick break. More with James Deakin when Talk of the Town returns.
May S pala, no? Before we continue on with this episode, I'd like to remind everybody to check out AutoDeal.com.ph. We're not just all about reviews, but we also do car sales. Believe it or not, whether it's brand new or secondhand, we have them on our website. And the beauty about it is that when you go to AutoDeal.com.ph, we connect you to the dealer that is closest to you, whether you live in Luzon, Visayas, or Mindanao. Plus, you will always get the best deal with AutoDeal.com.ph. So do come check it out.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town. We have been discussing the road safety issues and laws and the confusion that is going on in this world.
many confusion.
With James Deakin.
Deakins. So we touched briefly about the child seat law.
Yeah.
We also we understand from James that it was the timing that a lot of people are upset about, the cost, the non-clarity. We also got into a little bit of the MVIC or S, depending on what it is. And then there's, I guess the last thing that we wanted to ask you about, the bus lane. It's now been moved from the right-hand most lane, or the two right-hand most lane, and it's now in the center. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there have been many a time that you've posted just on Facebook, as everybody follows you on Facebook, that this was actually a possibility, a great possibility, keeping the bus lane to the left. If not the bus lane to the left, somebody proposed that perhaps there'd be a sort of like a second, if not a walkway, then a pathway on top of EDSA that would be, let's say, for example, for pedestrians and people and cyclists as well. But I guess your thoughts on the safety of moving the bus lane to the left-hand side instead of keeping it on the right-hand side.
Again, in theory, wonderful idea. Wonderful. You've seen this in places like Brazil and China, where it goes into the center lane. It's a BRT system, and it just becomes an unimpeded trackway.
correct.
And that's the value of it, is creating this segregated road that it's unimpeded, and that way you can really rely on time, and you can program it properly, because you've reduced the external factors.
Yeah.
The problem happened when, now this is unofficial, right? But I was having an off-the-record discussion with one of the executive officials.
You do realize we're on air, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm not saying it's unofficial, because
Okay.
it was, and basically the project was worth 40 billion, or was the figure thrown out. Again, these are not official figures, right? But then later on, they're like, okay, great, that's the BRT system, 40 billion, where here's 20 million and do the same thing. It doesn't work, right? The same way. So what happened was we kind of did it hilaw. And we're seeing the effects of that now.
Yeah.
When you come down the segregated busway, it's great if you're on the bus, right? And I agree with that. You have to prioritize the public, because it's more people in less vehicles. It's the
Correct.
formula.
Yeah.
But what happened was we have engineering conflicts within EDSA that don't allow us to create this particular thing we're trying to create.
Yeah.
You need to solve those engineering conflicts.
Like a flyover that starts on the left, going to the left.
Exactly. So once you have that and you have to break out, wala na. It is not unimpeded anymore. It is not
Correct.
segregated anymore. If a train had to go through and give way to the cars at some point, it's no longer a railway.
It'd be basically San Francisco Street.
It'll be a tram.
Yeah.
It'll be a tram, exactly. And even trams have the right of way. Like in Melbourne and stuff, you have that crazy situation where you have to go to the furthest left to turn right. Do you know that? It's one of the most bizarre things if you're a driver. Even in Australia, if you've driven all your life in Australia, you get to Melbourne and you got to take your furthest left lane to turn right because of the tram.
Yeah.
But they have a system for that. Here, we don't.
Yeah.
It's like it gets to
Bahala
the
na.
point where if you're headed southbound on EDSA, right? Then you're coming from, let's say, Rockwell, and that area becomes Buendia, and you see the segregated.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that's now after the Buendia, the shell on Buendia, it becomes private vehicles. That same lane.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Nobody does.
What? So it's going to be that way forever, or is it just to get people
Again,
used to the barriers?
communication.
Yeah.
I've been asking, what's going on with this? This is not how it works.
Yeah.
And safety-wise, it's not great because people are swerving
now
in and
everyone's
out,
crisscrossing.
man. Yeah.
You want to reduce the points of conflict, and now we've added points of conflict because now the bus has to go to the right lane
Rightmost, yeah.
to pick up passengers in Ayala. And then the cars are now trying to get into that left lane because it bottlenecks at the Ayala tunnel.
Yeah.
Are you all visualizing this now?
Yeah.
Because
I
now
passed
instead
that
of
a
2
lot.
lanes, it's a 1.5 lanes because of the cement barriers.
Correct.
So by nature, we will all slow down because even though technically you could fit 2 cars side by side, you need to put a little Vaseline on the side to make sure you don't, you slip in.
A little bit of lube.
Yeah.
So that's the problem we have. So everybody slows down. So people are fighting to get, and they're coming from this right lane, trying to crisscross to that left lane.
Yeah.
The buses are crisscrossing. It's chaos.
Mayhem.
Absolute
It's
chaos.
mayhem. So if you're only as strong as your weakest link, you could have the best system on earth, but if it just falls apart there at Ayala, and there are several points like that.
Yeah.
It's not just Ayala where that happens.
Is the one in Ayala just a temporary problem? Because I have seen them started to build stuff in
Supposedly,
the center area.
Supposedly a temporary problem. Yun nga, they understand that there is unofficially a 40 billion proposal to rehabilitate into a BRT, right? So you can't throw 20 million at the same problem, get the same result, right? Or even if it's 40 million, right?
Yeah.
You cannot do that. And this is what we're seeing is it's not, you have to incorporate the whole plan. They are doing something. I just don't know what exactly. That communication would be nice to get in a bit more communication about what they're doing, because right now it does not make sense.
It doesn't.
And again, you cannot underestimate the power of getting the public on your side for these things. You need cooperation. So in order to get cooperation, you need communication. And again, we fall short of this. And again, back to the same thing that we're talking about, it is a good thing to put the buses in the center lane.
It is.
Yeah.
Let's do it properly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we just screw everything up.
Yeah. Although in a perfect world, and I think I've said this in this podcast before, in a perfect world, we wouldn't need those barriers.
No.
No,
The buses would
correct.
just all be there.
Correct.
Yes.
And the cars wouldn't.
An invisible line.
An invisible line. That's the ideal.
That's just crazy. I wonder if
situation.
things
Let's
like that
call
would
that
actually
line
work.
Discipline.
Tito. No, but
Or if you really can't grasp the concept of bus lane and private lane,
Yeah.
we can divide it so that everyone understands it, smoking and non-smoking.
because also in the northbound version of that, on the Ayala Tunnel,
Discipline.
I died a little bit,
yeah, me too.
but a Tito inside me grew.
Oh yeah. The barriers start underneath the tunnel, which is extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
Because
Without any reflectors pa.
people don't see it.
Yeah.
They're flying down the tunnel, they're entering it, it gets dark, then all of a
Change of
sudden,
light,
boom,
Yeah.
there's barriers.
Yeah.
It's so dangerous.
It is.
So dangerous. And I know people have gotten into accidents there, right? Because I've seen it.
Oh yeah.
It's they need to do something about that and communicate what's going to be happening with that as soon as possible.
And I remember they did go on like this little campaign, and they called it Barry the Barrier. And then,
Barry the barrier.
Yeah, Barry the Barrier, and they were like saying, it's not Barry's fault, it's not Barry's fault, but it's not a game, I mean,
Yeah.
when it's road safety, you got to be very, very careful with stuff like this, because if people are having accidents, there's a problem.
Yeah.
There's a problem. You cannot just keep calling them stupid or this. You gotta, as government, address that problem. You want to stop those accidents, and you just can't keep saying, "Oh, it's not the barrier's fault. It's that fault." There's a reason why this is happening. So let's study it and reduce it.
Now I want to. We've been. It's been a lot of bad stuff that we were talking about, but there have been good stuff as well in terms of motoring in the Philippines. That new Skyway,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, has been absolutely like great news. One of the best.
Things to come out 2020
Absolutely.
and 2021.
2020,
yeah.
2021. That is one of my highlights.
In fact, I drove it the first day it was open,
Yeah.
not just by chance, actually, because I missed the inauguration, but they opened it and we were going to the beach, and it was exactly at that time.
Okay.
From Buendia to the NLX stall was 18 minutes.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the best 18 minutes of 2020 for me.
I have to say, I have to agree, man. That's
Best, dude.
and that's following the speed limit at about 70 kilometers per hour at that time.
It was even less, I think, because there were some road works. And it was.
So 60 to
If you
70.
did that like 100 once, I don't know if they'll do 100 for the whole thing. I'm not sure, because some portions are narrow. But
Maybe
let's
say 80 or less.
Yeah, if you average 80, let's say, I think
can
you
make
would
it
be
in
doing 12 minutes or
about
something.
12.
Wow.
And it's just a whole, it's a new lease on life.
Yeah.
Especially if you live in the South, which I do, and we do the Clark thing a lot. Oh my gosh, it takes me longer to go to Quezon City before than it would now to go to Clark from
It's
Alabang.
insane.
It's just crazy. And then the other day we were coming from Clark, just this week, a few days ago, coming from the Puning Hot Springs and stuff like that. And I remember I was gonna get dropped off, and it just it was so easy. Just seeing that when you come out of Balintawak and you see that entry, and you're like, that you're gonna skip that whole lower intestine.
Oh, yeah.
That colon, that bowel of Quezon City that used to take you 2 hours just to get back to. Now it's just.
And the view that you get from up there.
It's crazy.
It's absolutely awesome.
You feel like you're in a different world.
Dude, it's so nice.
Yeah.
Sadly, I
enjoy
have
it.
yet to try it. I've only seen
enjoy it.
the aerial photos. But I'm
Buildings that
dying
you
to
never
try
knew
it.
existed,
Yeah.
views you never. You're like, where am I?
It's like, oh, look, the Ortigas skyline. Beautiful.
Yeah, and Rockwell. If you see Rockwell
Yeah.
coming from
From north to south.
north to south,
Looks
there's
awesome.
a portion there where Chinese New Year they lit it up, and it was that day where we, I think it was Wednesday, so it was the eve of Chinese New Year. It was like, wow, it just appears like this beautiful
It's
lit
like
up,
Vegas.
super nice. Yeah, like a mini Vegas.
It's like Vegas with like 6 buildings.
It's a start. Baby steps.
So cool lang na lang Eiffel, like an Eiffel Tower or a
Yeah.
Statue of Liberty,
And
like
then
a replica.
or the Luxor with the light going up.
a couple of
But
fountains.
so aside from the Skyway, I mean there are new exits that are opening up.
Yeah, they're
recently.
really they rushed it on purpose, obviously. They knew how much we needed this. So they really opened it up as the bare minimum na talaga.
Yeah.
And now they're slowly adding their exits and stuff like that.
So currently there are 3 exits, right?
Yes, if you're coming from, let's say, Buendia, which was open already, there was already the, what's the Quirino? Quirino was open already.
Quirino was open. Balintawak was open. I'm not sure about that.
No. Quirino before you go down into Quirino.
Yeah.
Then you do that whole sort of, I think it's Plaza de la Hours. Am I in the right area? Now it goes, there's Quezon Ave, and then there's NLX. So there's nothing before Quezon Ave that except for Quirino. And then after Quezon Ave, it's NLX. I know because I just missed that turn the other day. And it was painful. Because I was picking up my manager who lives there in Quezon Ave, right? And she said, don't take the Quezon Ave exit. I said, you live on Quezon Avenue, like 2 minutes from the entry of the Skyway. She goes, yes, don't take that exit. All right. I'm not following this. She goes, no, the traffic down there is crazy.
Yeah.
What you want to do is you want to take Quirino. I was saying, nah, she's mistaken. I know she lives there and I don't, but she's mistaken. I'm the car guy. She's not.
Yeah, okay.
An hour and a half later, because I miss Quezon. I thought, okay, if I miss Quezon, there's got to be one after. Yeah, there was. It was Bulacan. I'm not kidding. Because the next thing is the toll, and you can't U-turn at the toll, so it's freaking Bulacan. So then I U-turn, and then she said, when you come back, don't exit Quezon again. So it's back to Quirino. And then back, and it was a painful lesson to learn.
Yeah.
But that St. Peter's area of Quezon Avenue, that is one giant constipated portion that I swear I was stuck there for like an hour on.
And you're traveling how many kilometers?
It was, you measured in inches per day, not kilometers per hour.
But that Skyway really has loosened up EDSA, I feel.
It has. And these are the roads projects that I really, really want to support. Is projects that take away from the city, like they're circumferential roads or they're bypass roads. I'm not in favor of building more roads in a city like Metro Manila because more roads attract more cars.
Yeah.
We don't want more cars. But if that road takes you out, like the Skyway now connects and you bypass, that's massive.
Yeah.
Just don't create more internal roads because you're influencing the behavior you don't want anymore.
Stop creating more roads. Fix the damn roads.
Fix the damn roads and then build roads that decongest.
Yeah.
Bring us out. Like spread us out of Metro Manila.
Yeah.
I think very soon Clark will become a very, very doable it'll be a very doable arrangement for people who want to live and work in Clark and come to Manila or vice versa.
That would be great.
It would be great.
But the bridges also. Oh, we're gonna wrap up soon. But the bridges and the one that to cross Pasig River, right? There are
2 that are coming up.
Yeah,
very soon.
The Rockwell Bridge, which I still don't understand, and which is very important to my life, by the way. And then the one further down, JP Rizal, BGC,
Lawton, I think they call
Lawton.
it.
Is there a timeline for these guys?
Yeah, April 28, 21.
No, this year?
Yeah, this year.
No, get
well,
out of
That's
here.
April Fool's
I would
Day.
normally, be like, no, like see that happen. But Sec Villar has been on point every single time. In fact, even with the Skyway, with that, there was a fire. There was dramas, right?
Correct,
Unexpected dramas.
Yeah.
Pandemic. He still pulled through before Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So you
true.
gotta tip your hard hat.
You're
See what I
right.
did there?
Yeah.
You gotta tip your hard hat as somebody that's like willing to. He's really committed to deadlines. So when he said April 2021 and he has not backtracked yet, I was like, I don't know, man. I mean, I know you've pulled through before, but that's my view from the studio of Tito Clock. I see that.
Correct.
And that ain't going to happen this year. But every day, the growth has been exponential because of the technology they use. I forget the name of the technology he called it.
It's called hard work.
No. There's an actual engineering technology that they're using. I'm sure I'm going to screw this up. It sounded something like furlough or something like that. Anyway.
Furlough.
Like
Something.
horses?
No, I know I'm going to screw it up. So forget I said what I said.
All right.
But there's some technology that he's using that when you look at it in the beginning, the groundwork, it looks like nothing's happening. But once you put all these things together, the growth after that is exponential because he's now literally, you're just putting on top of.
It's like a step after step kind of thing.
It's like
It's like a
They're
Lego.
doing the same thing for the LRT extension to the airport.
Okay.
And I saw that technology with my own very eyes, and it's just fantastic how once you get the base, and that's the longest part, on top of that becomes like a Pez dispenser. You just shove that thing on top of and now every day I look out the window, it's just like a meter or so closer than it was the day before. I'm like,
Dude, help us out on this.
It's gonna connect.
Can you do like a sort of like a time lapse photograph?
I'm thinking now of just sticking the phone there and just time lapsing it till April and seeing how that.
Well, not the one like that, but maybe a camera that can take a photograph every day and then just piece it together.
Yours way so much easier.
Yeah, it is.
I can't
Just
believe
one
it.
click.
Yeah, one click. Yeah,
Yeah, just one
And
click,
I
click,
leave it
click.
on and plugged in, and no, that's a good idea. I'll take one picture a day.
It's great that we were able to end on a sort of like a high note, talking about new roads out there. But the meat of this all was we invited James to talk about road safety, and we thank him for joining us here today. The meat of our sandwich was really talking about the child seat law, which was very important. It has been suspended, as James did mention, but it's something that we should all take into consideration and not wait for the law to tell us that we should force ourselves to get this. Because while your car is very expensive and you work hard for it, I'm sure it's more expensive and you worked harder on your kids. And you want to make sure that they are safe at all times. On behalf of Gino, James, thank you so much for joining us today. Hope it won't be the last time you join us, because we absolutely love it when you're here. In fact, Gino and I were saying that if we actually invite you here, we could just shut the hell up and let you run the show.
We can literally ask one question
and then just let him take it.
Go downstairs and get coffee.
Yeah, and James will come back. And James still talking.
Yeah, and then the beauty is the paycheck still comes to us. That's the important thing. Thanks for joining us.
But James, everybody knows James Deakin. But if you want to pitch or if you want to promote anything in your shows, your social media, where can they reach you?
At the moment it's I'm going through a Facebook ban, so I'll send.
What did you do?
Dude, that's another podcast for another time.
Okay.
That's another hour where you can literally ask me, go to Starbucks, and by the time you come back, I would just be getting warmed up.
So where are you right now?
It's still on Facebook, but James Deakin on Facebook. Check out the TikTok. It's something different.
Okay.
It's something completely different.
I never thought I'd see James doing TikTok.
Neither did I.
And I have to say, I've actually enjoyed it.
It's crazy. I'm like, my kids have been telling me about TikTok for how long, and I was like, I never will I join TikTok. That is just, I will never sell my soul to TikTok. And look at me now. It's really, that's a play. And then Tito Clock, which is every Friday at 5 p.m. Just a place to hang out. That's on Facebook.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. James Deakin. Not Deakin. Whoever calls him James Deakin.
I did.
Deakins.
Sorry, Deakins.
Isa lang ako.
Thank you very much, James. For Kakaterona, this has been Gino Rufino, and this has been Torque of the Town.
Cars are better.
Nope, bikes are.
This has been Torque of the Town, a podcast produced by AutoDeal and MotoDeal. To learn more about our products and services, head on over to AutoDeal.com.ph and or MotoDeal.com.ph, as well as our social media pages and our YouTube channels. Torque of the Town is powered by Podcast Network Asia and Podmetrics. See you Wednesdays at 10 a.m.